Every single year, highly rated premium tour operators fail their Global Sustainable Tourism Council's strict cultural audits. The assumption in the industry is that printing behavioral guidelines and telling guests to act respectfully satisfies the criteria. We call this the Brochure Fallacy. But an audit does not measure guest intentions. Polite behavior is not a compliance metric. Criteria C1 and C2 strictly govern operational logistics and systemic engineering constraints. This diagram illustrates two opposing approaches to cultural management. On the left is the standard model. On the right, a sustainable architecture. The linear red path shows the Brochure Fallacy, a passive funnel delivering people directly from an operator to a site. This structure guarantees a failed audit. The multinodal green path represents an engineered flow. It is a strict, dynamic architecture integrating scheduling matrices and community feedback to control the precise load on a destination. To achieve certification, operators must translate the ethical mandates of cultural interactions, or C1, and heritage protection, C2, into exact operational formulas. Treating culture as a soft ethical guideline rather than a hard logistical constraint is the single most common point of failure for tourism professionals today. Exactly. Criterion C1 mandates clear, actionable, and structural guidelines for visiting living cultural sites and vibrant indigenous host communities. To implement this, operators must define and manage a metric known as fragility capacity. Calculating this capacity requires capping the absolute volume and timing of tourist influxes. It operates completely independently of how politely those tourists behave. This graph charts a destination's daily capacity limit. When a large unannounced group drops into the timeline, it violently spikes the load, breaking baseline thresholds for school times and religious practices. Massive or unscheduled visits fracture the social infrastructure, directly violating C1. The engineered solution relies on adjusting data parameters to exact mathematical constraints. By limiting visits to specific fractions, like a maximum of 12 people twice a week, the influx drops into a safe operational zone. Under these rigid load limits, core daily routines remain undisturbed. True cultural respect requires mathematically capping your operational footprint to guarantee local life continues as if you were never there. Even when operators successfully manage their group sizes, a hidden operational trap frequently triggers a C1 audit failure. Operators consistently assume that silence from the host community equals approval. This diagram outlines the flaw in standard community relations. A singular outbound channel offers locals no agency. Relying on a one-way communication structure instantly invalidates any cultural interaction protocol under GSTC standards. The required architecture is a low-friction, two-way loop. The community must have a formalized mechanism to instantly flag negative impacts. In practice, this means establishing a direct digital feedback channel or designating a dedicated local liaison. The auditor's true test is execution. Certification is earned only by providing documented proof that the operator takes prompt corrective action based on incoming feedback. Without a formalized bidirectional feedback loop, an operator isn't managing cultural interactions. They are merely trespassing politely. This brings us exactly into Criterion C2. Here, the operational mandate shifts from mere behavioral management to active, ongoing preservation. C2 demands that commercial operators inject tangible resources into the historical and spiritual sites they utilize. Simply observing a location without doing harm is inadequate. Operators are structurally obligated to actively enhance and maintain it. This flowchart breaks down to two acceptable mechanisms for resource injection. The first is direct financial routing. Operators satisfy this by allocating a fixed, transparent percentage of every ticket sale directly to a local archaeological restoration fund. The second acceptable mechanism is in-kind operational support. Operators fulfill C2 by physically dispatching their own staff, tools, and supplies to clean and maintain the heritage site. Under C2, cultural heritage sites must be treated as critical operational infrastructure, requiring ongoing direct investment. There is an absolute, non-negotiable negative constraint that controls all of Criterion C2. Tour operations, regardless of their financial contributions, must never impede local residents' access to their own sacred or heritage spaces. This temporal scheduling chart maps the operational friction between tourists and locals, dividing the day into gold peak hours and gray off-peak hours. Failure occurs when operators schedule tours during a site's premium hours, generating crowds that block locals from daily worship. The required resolution is temporal scheduling. This physical routing blocks commercial access during high-value periods, shifting the tourist load completely into off-peak slots. Operators must construct itineraries around these windows. The result is a heritage site where locals practice freely without navigating commercial cameras. True heritage protection means sacrificing operational convenience to guarantee that locals are never displaced from their own cultural epicenter. To definitively pass a GSTC cultural audit, an operator must integrate a precise, functional architecture. This schematic details the 3 requirements of compliance. The first is establishing strict quantitative load limits to protect the community's baseline functions. The second requirement is maintaining a documented two-way communication channel for immediate community flagging and operator response. The third requirement is injecting direct resources into the site while temporally scheduling around the local's specific needs. Only when these 3 logistical pillars are engineered into a business model can an operator claim true compliance with C1 and C2. Culture in sustainable tourism cannot be treated as an exploitable free commodity. Living culture is a highly fragile, shared asset that demands rigorous structural protection. Transitioning from passive respect to engineered compliance is the defining hallmark of a professional, sustainable operator.